हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतम डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतम डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री द्वारिका धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री अयोध्या धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। भक्ति प्रदायिनी तुलसी महारानी की जय। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। गौ माता की जय। श्री राधा गोपीजन वल्लभ भगवान की जय। श्री निताय पतित पावन गौर हरि की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone to our Bhagavad Gita series, Bhagavad Gita, one chapter a day. So today we'll be discussing chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. We discussed chapter 7 in the last session, which talk about Bhagavad Gyan, knowledge of the Supreme. And today we'll be talking about Bhagavad Prapti, attaining the Supreme. Okay, so before we enter into the chapter, let's do invocation prayer to invoke the mercy of the Lordships and the Guru Parampara. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinim Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Mahavedanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratshe Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vanchah kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone. So, as I said, today we are discussing chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. And anybody remembers the acronym which we used for chapter 7 to understand the overall flow of chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita?
Here, head.
Here, head.
Head. Here was chapter 4.
Yeah.
Or actually it was ears, right, based on hearing. So chapter 7 we talked about attaining or knowledge of the absolute, knowing the powers and sweetness of the Supreme Lord. Okay, we talked about how God can be seen anywhere and everywhere, what kind of people approach Lord and what kind of people do not approach the Lord, and what about other people who approach the demigods, other Devi Devatas. Okay, what is their destination? So now in chapter 8, the acronym which we are going to use to understand the flow of this chapter 8, we are going to use the word dead. Okay, D-E-A-D, dead. So it starts with Arjuna's questions, some doubts. So the first D stands for doubts. Arjuna asked few questions to Krishna. And based on that, the whole chapter is focused on one question of Arjuna. Okay, so we'll discuss that. And then E stands for end of life. Okay, what happens at the end of life, based on what kind of thought somebody has at the end of his life, what will be his destination? And based on that, we are going to discuss the law of last thought. Okay, we have heard many laws: law of gravitation, law of Newton, okay, law of thermodynamics, law of fluid mechanism, law of karma. So today we are going to talk about the law of last thought. Whatever thoughts we have at the end of our life, how they shape our next destination. So that is end of life. And then A is attaining the Supreme. How to ultimately attain the Supreme. How different people as Bhakti Yogi or Ashtanga Yogi or a Gyani, how they attain the Supreme. And then last D stands for devotion. Okay, by Bhakti Yoga, by devotion, remembrance by Bhakti is easier than any other process. Okay, so remembering the Supreme by following the process of devotional service is much easier than any other process of Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc. So that is the overall flow of this chapter. D-E-A-D, dead. So it starts with Arjuna's question. Arjuna has asked many questions to the Supreme Lord in the beginning of this chapter. He says, I want to know what is Brahman, what is self, Atman. Okay, what are the fruitive activities? What is this whole material manifestation? What are these different Devi Devatas? Who is the Yagyapati, the enjoyer of the Yagya, and how does he reside in the heart of the living entity? So please explain this to me. And his most important question was, how to remember you at the time of death. Prayan Kale. So Prayan Kale means at the time of death, how to remember you. And what happens with that remembrance. So these are the various questions which Arjuna has asked. And Lord explain all his questions very briefly and focuses on the one very important question. How to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Okay, what is Brahman? So Lord Krishna tells very briefly Brahman. Brahman means the living entity. Here Brahman means the living entity, because people talk about Brahman sometimes it refers to the Supreme Lord. But there are two words used in the scripture, Brahman and Para Brahman. So Brahman many times refer to the living entity, the individual soul, and Para Brahman refers to the Supreme Lord. And what is Adhyatma? Adhyatma means the nature of the living entity, which ultimately help in connect with the Supreme Lord. Based on our nature, based on our swabhav, which we have developed, and we continue in our life based on our swabhav. We act in our life based on our swabhav. And what are the fruitive activities? The fruitive activities karma. So karma is the activity which bind us within this material world and which shape us our next life forms. Okay, what is this whole material manifestation? This material manifestation, Adi Bhutam, that is also the energy of the Supreme Lord. And all these various Devi Devatas, they are the representative of the Supreme Lord who are acting in this material world to facilitate particular need for the living entity within this material world. They are providing for the basic necessities of life. And then how is the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, enjoying the yajna? He is residing in the heart of every living entity, and in that way he witness and guide the different activities of the living entity. And he is the enjoyer of all the yajna. He is the yajnapati. And now the most important question, Prayana Kale, how to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Okay, so just focus on this question, because other questions Krishna is going to explain later also in the other chapters. This whole chapter is focused on this remembering the Lord at the time of death. So this word Prayana Kale is very significant here in this verse and in this whole chapter, because whatever we do in our life, ultimately that will be tested at the time of death. And Arjuna is very anxious to know how to remember the Lord in such difficult situation. He is going to be fighting, he is going to be in the war. And how to remember the Lord in that difficult situation, where his mind should be focused. So generally, the time of death is considered as a very difficult situation. Okay? Just imagine, we have little problem in life and our whole life is disturbed. Sometimes we have little sickness, sometimes some other family problem, some relationship problem, some work problem, and our whole life is disturbed, our whole routine is disturbed. And then imagine what will be the situation at the time of death. And everybody is very anxious about death. People don't want to talk about death. Right? People say, why to talk about death? And if we talk about death, people think you are a very pessimistic person. But here the Shastras, they are talking about death. Bhagavad Gita is talking about death, because at the time of death, whatever our consciousness is, that is going to determine our next life. Srimad Bhagavatam starts with death. Parikshit Maharaj is cursed to die in 7 days, and he renounces everything and he approaches the sages at the bank of Ganges in Shukatal, which is now known as Shukatal, where he heard this whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam was, what was the question of Parikshit Maharaj? What is the duty of a person who is about to die? And what is the duty of people in general? Okay? So death. All the scripture, they talk about death because we need to prepare for that reality of life. Nobody can escape death. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Lord Krishna says, somebody who has taken birth is sure to die, and who is going to die is sure to take birth again. So people in the outside world, in the material world, they don't want to talk about death. They think when the death will come, it will come. Why to worry about that? But a spiritualist, somebody who is walking in the path of spirituality, they want to discuss about this reality of life, namely death, and how to prepare ourselves. People talk about the art of living. Here we are going to talk about the art of dying. Okay, because everything which we do in our life, that is going to be tested at the time of death. There was one great devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Kulashekara. Maharaj Kulashekara, he prays to the Lord, my dear Lord, just now I'm quite healthy. And it is better for me that I die immediately, so that the swan of my mind can seek entrance at the stem of your lotus feet. Because at the time of death, when this whole throat will be choked up with the bile and mucus, I may not be able to remember you at that time. Better I die now when I am quite healthy, so that I can remember you in this situation. So this whole chapter is focused on dying, how to give up your body. Okay? And nobody can say we are going to live forever. We know everybody dies, everybody have to die. How many of us were there in 1975, in 1970? Maybe rarely somebody. And how many of us think we are going to live till 2070? Maybe none of us, maybe one or two who are right now 10, 12 years old. Okay? So, everybody has to die. And nobody want to die. But everybody is forced. And the most amazing thing, the most surprising thing in this world is everybody think our time will never come. We see people dying all around. Either because of sickness, either because of some natural calamity, some road accident, or some criminal attack or something. So we see people dying all around us, but everybody thinks I will not die. I still have long way to go. In Mahabharata also there is another very wonderful incident come when Yudhishthira Maharaj goes to get the water. When all the other Pandavas went, they wanted to drink the water, and without answering the question of the Yaksha, they tried to get that water and drank it, and they all died. And when Yudhishthira Maharaj went, Yaksha said, you have to answer my questions, then you can take this water, otherwise you are also going to die. So Yaksha started asking the questions to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and one of the questions which he asked is, what is the most amazing thing in this world? Most surprising thing in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, the most surprising thing in this world is we see people dying all around, everywhere, but somehow we think, I am not going to die. Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam sheshasthavara vichanti kim ascharyamat param. So what can be more surprising than that? इससे बड़ा आश्चर्य क्या हो सकता है? People who are still here, they think we are not going to die. So everybody is going to die. Sometimes we see very old person who are not able to walk properly. They are using some stick and just walking, their whole body is shaking. And some of the young people, they may be looking at such old person and maybe laughing at them. Okay, thinking, oh, how this person is walking. But that is the reality of life. The child grows to youth, the youth grows to old, and the old ultimately have to die. But death does not necessarily come only after old age. Death can come at any time. Once one old lady was walking on the street with the help of a stick, and there were a few young girls. They were looking at that old lady and kind of laughing. And this old lady, she was looking here and there, trying to find something. So these young girls approached that old lady and asked, what are you trying to search here? And she said, I am trying to search my young age. I lost my young age somewhere here. So she was trying to give a message to these young girls that you are mocking somebody who is old, but everybody has passed through that stages. Ultimately, we are going to grow old, and ultimately everybody have to die. So death is certain. And there are some people who may say, I am not afraid of death. I already have too many problems in my life. Better I die. Then I will be freed from my problems. Ultimately, at least I will be happy, peaceful. If I commit suicide, I have too many problems in my life. So is that really true that if somebody commits suicide, they can become free of the problems? The scripture says, if somebody commits suicide, that's even biggest sinful activity. They still have to come back and face all the reactions, and they have to face the reaction of committing on the top one more sinful activity of suicide. Okay, so if somebody is trying to commit suicide, means they are pushing their sinful reaction further, and they have to pay back with more interest, right? As a compounded interest. So by committing suicide, nobody can escape from the problem. They have to still face the problem. Now, just remember, whatever situation of life we have, whatever particular family somebody is born into, that is because of our previous karma. All of us come together in a particular family or in a association of particular people because there is some connection somewhere from previous lives which bring people together. Even if there is problem with father and son, maybe it is coming from the previous life. The son sometime will make the father pay for so many things and he will try to take away all the property of the father because he is fulfilling the debt from the previous life. So we should remember, yes, in this life I may be facing some problems, but I am paying for my previous karma. So let me better pay off that now rather than pushing it to further in the next lives. Death does not solve the problem. Committing suicide does not solve the problem of this life. So somebody may say, yeah, I am not worried about death. That is good. If you are not worried about that, we should not be worried about that because that is ultimate reality. Only thing we should be concerned about how we live this life. Because at the time of death, whatever I have done all throughout my life, that will go as a fast forward movie in front of my eyes, in front of the consciousness. And based on that, whatever I remember at that time, that will determine the next life. All our actions, all our thoughts are being recorded. If people are very careful about not eating too much salt because of blood pressure issue. People are very careful about not eating too many sweets because of diabetes problem. But how many people live life carefully to avoid the consequences of this karma? भगवान के डर से कितने लोग अपने कर्म को अच्छे से करते हैं? If somebody is stopping at the red light, they are very careful. Oh, maybe there are cops. If I try to jump the red light, the cops will catch me and I will get a ticket. So people are scared of jumping the red light, breaking the traffic rules. Even if no cops there, maybe there are some cameras there. It will get recorded and the ticket will come at home. Right? They will mail the ticket at home. So same way we should understand all our actions are also getting recorded. And based on all that recorded actions, it is going to be examined at the time of death. And who is that examiner? That examiner is Dharmaraj, Yamaraj. And who is recording all that? Who is taking all these secret photographs for us? That is Chitragupta. Okay? His name also signifies that. Chitra Gupta. गुप्त तरीके से सबके चित्र निकाल रहे हैं. So all our actions, all our thoughts are getting recorded. He is taking. And at the time of death, after we go in the court of Yamaraj, all the file will be shown. And you say, no, I never did this, and they are going to play the video clip. See, isn't that you? Everything is in record. So nobody can escape that. So here, now, as I said, at the time of death, everything is going to be tested. So this life is preparation and death is examination. Just like a student. The student goes to school throughout the year, he studies. And at the end of the school year, there is exam, the final exam. And how the child performs in that final exam, that will going to tell how he has studied throughout the year. So same way, this life is preparation. Whatever we do throughout our life, that is going to be tested at the end of our life. Now, the exam does not come only at the end of the school year. Throughout the school year also there are some quizzes, okay, some assignments, some midterm exams also. So those are to see how well somebody is preparing for the final exam. So same way for us also, the final exam is at the time of death. But throughout our life also, we are given some quizzes, some assignments, some midterm exams also in the form of some problems in our life. Okay, sometimes some small problems come in life. And how we react during those problems, That tells what is our consciousness, what is our state of mind. Immediately, if we get angry, if we get filled with kama, krodha, lobha, envy towards others, these small triggers are the exam for us. How well really are we preparing for that final exam? Okay? And even though if somebody has prepared very well throughout the year, but during the final exam, if somebody become nervous and they forget everything, they are not able to remember anything and they become completely nervous, then what will happen? Then also they can fail the exam. Right? It happens. Sometimes somebody has studied throughout the year, they have done very nicely throughout the year, but in the final exam, then they lose. Not fail maybe, but they are not passing with the flying colors, like with A grade. They may drop down to B grade or C grade sometime based on how they performed in the final exam. Just one example. If you go for taking your photo, you go to the studio, the photographer is going to take your photo, and the photographer will tell, okay, please adjust your hair, adjust your collar, now you are ready with everything, smile. And just the minute he is going to click, a fly comes and sit on your nose and your expression changed completely because of that last moment something happened. And he immediately just clicked the photo, and what will come in that photo? Even though somebody prepared very nicely, okay, nice clothes, nice hair comb, collar, shirt, tie, everything perfect. Just at the last minute a fly came and sat on the nose and the whole expressions changed, and that is what is captured in that photo. Same way, throughout our life, whatever somebody has done, at the last minute, what kind of thought come in the mind, that is going to print the photo for the next life. This is what you are going to become in the next life, sir. Okay, so we have to be very careful. And we have to become focused on how we prepare ourselves for this final exam. Just like a student is very focused in his studies, he doesn't waste time, he is very disciplined, makes the timetable. So we need to make our lives disciplined so that throughout our life we can prepare for that final exam. Now, I will tell you one real story. I will tell you two stories. One story is, everybody has to face death. Okay, nobody can escape death. And so there was once a woman, her son died. And she was very upset. She was crying and she was telling everybody, please help me, bring my son back to life. I want to get my son alive again. And some of the people told, on the outskirts of the village, there is a great sadhu. He can maybe revive your son. And that sadhu happens to be Lord Buddha that time. So this is a story of at the time of Lord Buddha. So this lady goes to Lord Buddha and begs from him, my only son has died. I have no other shelter. Please bring my son back to life. I have heard you are a very powerful sadhu. Please help me to bring my son back to life. And Buddha looked at that lady and told, my dear mother, I will bring your son back to life. You have to do something for me. Please tell me what is that. Please bring one handful of rice. Beg one handful of rice for me and bring that to me. She said, that's all. That's very easy. I will go immediately and bring. And Buddha said, just listen. I haven't completed my sentence. You have to beg from some house where nobody has died. So this woman said, okay, I will come in few minutes. She went to the village, knocked on one door. Please give me one handful of rice. They brought the rice. And by the way, has anybody died in your family? I can accept this alms only if nobody has died in your family. And they said, oh, my grandfather died. She went to the next house. Before receiving that rice, she asked, somebody died. Oh, my father had passed away. Some other said, my son has passed away. Throughout the day, from morning till evening, she went to so many houses. And everybody, in every house, somebody or other have died. Everybody has seen death. So finally, she comes back in the evening to Buddha, empty-handed. And Buddha said, so did you bring the alms for me? And she told, I have already understood the lesson which you wanted to teach me. Nobody can escape death. Everybody has seen death. Somebody or other in the family have died. So death is for certain. And then what happens at the time of death? I will tell you another story. Real story. Which is maybe 10, 12, 15 years older in the devotee community here. Okay, there was one devotee Mataji. Okay, this is a devotee family in San Diego. So this Mataji, she became a devotee. She is doing nice service in the temple. Her husband is not as favorable for devotional service, for Krishna consciousness. And one day her husband had a heart attack. He was admitted in the hospital. So this Mataji called the temple president. Prabhuji, my husband, he is very sick, he is in the hospital. Please pray for him. If you have time, if your time permit, please visit him. And so this temple president, he went to see her husband in the hospital. And after few days, this Prabhuji, he went into coma. So she is visiting her husband, praying for her husband. And this temple president will also go sometime, take the Mahaprasad, Mahagarland. And after few days, some time has passed, a month or so, all of a sudden this Mataji calls the temple president. Prabhuji, please come immediately. Please come to temple. And this temple president was all of a sudden shocked. What happened? Some emergency? What has happened? Please tell me. No, Prabhuji, you please come immediately to the temple. So this temple president rushed to the temple thinking maybe something has happened, the worst. And as he came to the hospital, entered into the room, this Prabhuji was sitting up, okay, awake again now, conscious. So Mataji told, my husband has come out of coma. And temple president said, Mataji, this is good news. Then why you were so scared? Why you rushed me to come to temple like that? So as soon as my husband came out of coma, he has been telling only one thing, call temple president, call temple president, call temple president. So I immediately called you, please come. So this temple president now spoke to this Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, what has happened? And this devotee, he told, Prabhuji, they came. And Prabhuji was thinking, maybe he is referring to devotees, some devotees came to visit him when he was in coma. And I also came. And this Prabhuji said, Prabhuji came 4 times. And temple president was counting. Yeah, I came 4 times to visit this Prabhuji in the hospital room. He said, no, Prabhuji, not you. They came 4 times. And this temple president asked 4 times, then he realized who has come. Maybe he has seen somebody in the state of coma as a near-death experience. So Prabhuji, who came? Did you see some very beautiful shining personality with yellow clothes, 4-handed forms? He said, no Prabhuji, not the beautiful shining personalities, but the very ugly, scaring looking personalities. They came. First time when they came, they wanted to drag me out. And I called out, Krishna. And they left. Second time they came, I raised my hands and I told, now I am going to surrender my life to Krishna. My wife is also devotee of Krishna. I am going to make my son also devotee of Krishna. So they heard the name Krishna and they again left. Third time again they came. This time they came to check on me. Was I really telling the truth or not? And they again left. 4th time. So this temple president was asking, if they came 3 times, why did they come 1 more time, 4 times? Why did they came so many times? So did they came again 4th time? No, Prabhuji, this time, the 4th time, the shining, effulgent personalities, the 4-handed personalities, they came. And these ugly looking ones, the scary looking ones also came, and these shining personalities told them, he is now not your property, he is not in your jurisdiction, you please leave him alone. And they went back. And after that, Prabhuji, I came out of coma. And this nurse was also listening when he said 4 times. She was saying, yeah, 4 times this person was almost about to die. We almost lost him 4 times and he revived. So this temple president now realized he has seen the Yamadutas and 4th time the Vishnu Dutas as a near-death experience. And after he came out of coma, now he immediately called temple president, Prabhuji, now I want to surrender my life to Krishna. I want to become full-time devotee. I want to give up everything and just join in temple full-time. So this is a real story. Okay, and that devotee is there. He is still serving full-time now with all his tan man dhan. He is surrendered. He is serving the Lordship. So this is a real story. At the time of death, what happens? We will be tested at the time of death, what we remember at the time of death. So now coming back to this point, Arjuna has asked, at the time of death, how to remember you? What is the benefit of remembering you, or otherwise what happens? So text 8.5 and text 8.6 are the very, very wonderful verses. So Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smarna muktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sanshayah. If somebody remembers me at the time of death, he will attain to my abode. Yah prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sanshayah. There is no doubt in that. So if somebody remembers Krishna at the time of death, what will happen to them? They will not take birth again in this material world. They will go back to Krishna in Golokadham. So that is the final exam. Are we able to remember Krishna at the time of death? And before the final exam, as I said, there are midterm exams also. Okay, there are some quizzes also. And that come in the form of some problems in life, some challenges in life. Are we able to remember Krishna during those challenging situations? Let's say somebody fell down. And as we fell down, what comes out of our mouth? Most people call out, oh mummy, oi mummy. So at that time, are we able to call out to Krishna, oh Krishna, hey Krishna. So if we are able to remember Krishna during those small challenges, small instance, then it can assure, yes, we are preparing ourselves for the time of death. So that is the final exam, to remember the Lord at the time of death. And to be able to remember the Lord at the time of death, we have to practice remembering Krishna throughout our life. As a student prepare throughout the year for the final exam, we have to prepare ourselves throughout the life to remember Krishna. It's not that somebody may think, oh, at the time of my death, I will say Hare Krishna and then I will go back to Krishna. It's so easy. At the time of death, the situation described is being bitten by 36,000 scorpions, and it's such a painful situation. The whole throat chokes up, the eyes bulges out. At that difficult situation, it will not be easy to remember Krishna if somebody has not practiced remembering. So we have to practice remembering Krishna. That's why our whole Krishna consciousness movement is to help us with that practice. Chanting the holy name on everyday basis, daily basis, chanting on the mala, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we chant on the mala every day, 16 rounds, which is almost like 2 hours of our practice. As somebody need to perform a stage performance for singing, to be able to perform 2 hours stage performance, they have to practice for so long. Every day they do riyaz. Right? They do their practice. So same way at the time of death, if we want to utter the name of Krishna, how much we need to practice? And people say, why 16 round? Why this? Why that? I can remember Krishna in my head. How many people really remember Krishna while doing all their activities? So that's why it's important to practice. People say, I don't have time. When I have time, then I will go to temple. When I have time, then I will chant the holy name. When I have time, then I will come to satsang. But when it comes to eating, sleeping, doing our work, maintaining our family, then we don't say, when I have time, then I will do. When I have time, then I will eat. When I have time, then I will sleep. These days, yes, people are too busy. They don't even really find time for eating, sleeping also, right? They are working so hard, they don't know for what they are working. If they don't have time for their own self also. So people keep pushing the importance of Krishna consciousness. We will do it in future. We will do it in future. As Prabhupada used to say, we tell people, chant, chant, chant. And they say, can't. Because people think I'm too busy, I have too many other important things to do. This is the most important thing. Because at the time of death, we will be tested. And the other verse which Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smarana bhavam tyajate anteh kalevaram tam tameveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. So if we remember Krishna at the time of death, we will go to Krishna. Otherwise, what will happen? Yam yam vapi smarana bhavam tyajate anteh kalevaram. So at the end of life, whatever you remember, that state you will attain for sure. So if we don't remember Krishna, then it's a very risky situation. Because whatever we remember at the time of death, we may end up in that type of situation. These days people are so much attached to their dogs and cats. People have pets, right? They have dog inside the home. They are spending time with dog. The dog is sleeping also in the same bed many times. So if somebody is remembering dog at the time of death, what will happen to him? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. So if somebody dies remembering the dog, they will become dog in the next life. So earlier the system was, we used to have cows at home. And if at least somebody get attached to cow also, that is still okay. At the most somebody can become cow. And in their next life, they can again become a human being. Because from cow to human, that is the direct next transformation. But if somebody slides down to other species of life, a dog, a beast, or insect or something, they have to go through this 8.4 million species of life again, that cycle. So that's why we tell devotees, don't keep pets at home, because you are taking a very risky situation by having pets at home. If you become attached to the pet, then what will happen? And the classical example is from Srimad Bhagavatam, the story of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj at a very young age, he renounced his kingdom, gave up his family, wife, children, everybody, came to the forest, surrendering his life to the Supreme Lord, started practicing austerities, doing his sadhana. But then later on, he became attached to a baby deer. Okay, once he saw a pregnant deer being chased by a lion, and he was afraid what will happen to this mother deer. And as this deer, to escape from the lion, jumped from a puddle of water, the baby came out and fell into that stream of water. And this Maharaj Bharat, as a renunciant, as a sannyasi, he saw, and he became so compassionate about that baby deer. He went, rescued that baby deer, and this baby deer is now just roaming around as Bharat Maharaj is doing his sadhana. And during his sadhana, he's thinking about this deer now. Okay, what happened to this deer? He is so small. Hopefully he will not be attacked by other wild animals. Hopefully he has eaten something. So he started thinking too much about this baby deer. Got attached with this baby deer. One day, this baby deer went little far. Maharaj Bharat did not see this baby deer, and he became afraid. He went into search for this baby deer. His foot slipped from the mountain, and he fell down. And during that time, at the last minute of his death, he was thinking about that deer. And what happened? In the next life, he has to take birth as a deer. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate anteh kalevaram tam tameveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. So Maharaj Bharat, even though he practiced for so long, but at the time of death, his consciousness was attached to the deer. So he has to take birth in the form of a deer. But because he was a devotee of the Lord, he has practiced austerity, he was given the memory from his previous life. He was able to remember. Even in the form of a deer, he was able to remember. So as a deer, now he will just roam around the hermit of the sages, eat only dry grass and all. And then after giving up that life, he again got the life of a human being as Jada Bharat in the family of a Brahmana. And in that life, now he was very careful to not get attached with anything. He pretended himself to be as a madman, dumb person. So completely focusing on the Supreme Lord, and finally he had attained the supreme destination. So he had to get another 2 lives because of this attachment with the deer. So we need to be very careful with where we develop our attachments. If somebody is too attached to their spouse, in the next life they will transform into that gender. If a man is attached to a woman, in the next life he will become a woman. As a woman, if he again become to a man, in the next life again become a man. And what kind of life he will get as a wealthy person, poor person, again, how our next life is determined, it's all based on the principle of karma. We discussed in chapter 2, okay, the 2 things which decide, deserve and desire. Whatever we deserve based on our bank balance, and what kind of desires we have, what kind of our last minute consciousness is there, that is going to determine our next life. Prabhupada used to tell a story in the Calcutta. There was one very rich person, the owner of a mill, and when he was at the last minute of his life, he was in the hospital surrounded by his son. He saw all his sons are standing there, and he was thinking of his office, his mill. Oh, what will happen to the mill? Who is taking care of the mill? He told, oh, you fool, why all of you are here? What will happen to the mill? And in that way he died. And Prabhupada said, because he was remembering his mill, at the time of death, maybe he will be born as a mouse in the mill. Okay, so that is the law of last thought. So the law of last thought, we should remember always. If we remember Krishna, we go to Krishna. Whatever else we remember, we have the risk of getting that. And as Arjuna is hearing this, now Arjuna is again afraid. I am going to fight. And during this fighting, if I am too much attached, too much thinking about Duryodhana, thinking of Karna, what will happen? What will be my destination? And what if I remember Shakuni, then what will happen to me? Okay, so Krishna, I don't want to fight. Because while fighting, if I remember these people and die in that situation, then what will happen to me? So that's why Krishna spoke the next part. The next verse, Krishna says, how we should mold our lives. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yuddhacha mai arpita manobuddhir. So Krishna says, surrender your intelligence and mind to me. Remember me regularly. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. In all the times, remember me. And in that way you perform your activity, you perform your duty. So do your work while remembering Krishna. On regular basis, remember Krishna. Okay, that regular basis, sarveshu kaleshu, what does that really means? Every day. Not like once in a while. Okay, on Janmashtami day I will go to temple, sit there in front of Radha Gopijan Vallabh and chant the holy name. Then next for 1 year, my quota is full. We have to remember Krishna on regular basis. By chanting the holy name, by hearing about Krishna, by reading about Krishna, by doing some service to Krishna. So in that way, if we remember Krishna always, then at the time of death, we have the scope of remembering Krishna and passing that final exam with the flying colors. So Krishna says, Ananya chetasah sattam yomam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulbha partha nityayuktasya yoginah. So for one who always remember me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. tasyaham sulbha partha. For them I am very easy to obtain because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So ananya chetah satatam. So very important word. Satatam. Earlier we heard the word nitya. So satatam and nitya, which means always, regularly, every day. So a devotee of the Lord, he remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. And these are the qualifications of a pure devotee. And for him, the Lord is easily attainable. So what is the difference between Ananya and somebody else? Let's say there are two devotees who are serving the deities. But the consciousness may be very different. One may be as a Kanishta Bhakta, whose Nishtha is not very strong. He is Kanishta. And the other one is maybe Uttamadhikari, who is very advanced devotee. So Ananya Bhakta is somebody, for him there is na anya, there is nobody else. He can never forget Krishna even for a moment. That is Ananya Bhakta. So Krishna says Ananya Chetah Satatam. So somebody who is constantly remembering me. Samarati Nityashaha. Every day, regular basis, who remembers me. For them I am very easy to obtain. I mentioned about King Kulashekara earlier. So King Kulashekara was such a wonderful devotee. He was especially attached to Lord Ramachandra. He was constantly meditating on the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Always thinking of Lord Ramachandra. And he used to hear the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. One Brahmana will come and recite pastimes from Ramayana. Once he heard the pastime of Lord Ram being sent to exile, and King Kulashekara, he will get so absorbed in his hearing as if he is personally present there. When this pastime is happening, he will just become the part of that. He will call his ministers, prepare the army. We are also going to go with Lord Ramachandra. He is being sent to the exile. We are also going. Somehow his ministers will pacify him. One time he heard that Lord Ramachandra is going to wage war against Lanka, against Ravana. And again, Maharaj King Kulashekara, he became part of that. He thought, I am also there. My Lord is going on the war. I have to help him. So prepare our whole army. We are also going to attack on Lanka. So this is such a wonderful thing actually, to remember the Lord, become part of the activity of the Lord. And somehow his ministers will pacify him. Somehow or other. So there is one very wonderful drama actually on this whole pastime of King Kulashekara. So the point which I am saying is, we have to develop our consciousness, we have to dovetail our consciousness in a way that we can remember Krishna, and then we are eligible to go back to Krishna. So Krishna says, Mamupetyah punarjanma dukkhalaya ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah. The Mahatmas, the great soul, who have attained me, what happens? They come to my supreme destination, my supreme abode. And what happens if they come to your supreme abode? Mamupetyah punarjanma dukkhalaya ashashvatam. After they come to my supreme abode, they don't take birth again here in this material world, which is dukkhalaya. It is designated as a place of misery. Okay? So this material world is not a place for a gentleman. This material world is not a place for a sane man. Here, on every step there is misery. On every step there is danger. Padam padam yada vipadam. So this material world is classified as dukkhalaya. Krishna himself is telling that is by design, this material world. Sometimes we say, why Krishna made so much misery? Why people are so much in misery? Why Krishna cannot take care of that? Actually, this place is meant for misery. This is a place for, as a punishment for the rebellion souls, or as a hospital for the treatment of the diseased condition of people. So that's why this material world is termed in two ways, either as a jail or as a hospital. In the jail, what happens? The prisoner is given some punishment. Okay, and that punishment means some misery. In the jail, there is misery. But along with that misery, yes, there are some basic necessities provided. They are also given some food. They are given place to sleep. So they have given some basic facilities there, but ultimately that is meant for misery, for their correction. Or this material world is also defined as a hospital. Okay, in the hospital, a diseased person goes where his treatment is done. So once the treatment is done, when he is cured, then he can come out of the hospital. So same way the living entity has come into this material world, which is either like a jail or a hospital for our treatment. So this is described as Dukhalaya. Krishna is putting his stamp. Okay, I classify this world as Dukhalaya. Just like there is a Himalaya, which is the place for snow, ice. There is Vidyalaya, that is the place for knowledge. There is Oshadhalaya, the place for medicine. Okay, same way Dukhalaya, home for misery. This material world is by design for misery. Okay, and if somebody think, no, I want to become comfortable here. That is like saying, if the prisoner tell the jailer or the prisoner go on strike, Hamari mange puri karo, we want best facilities in the jail. They want to become comfortable in the jail. That is not the purpose of the jail. What is the purpose? You finish your sentence and get out of this jail. The jailer is telling the prisoner, if you behave properly, you will be able to go out. I will make sure you can be released early than your sentence period. So the jailer is telling, oh, you correct your behavior and I will recommend to the higher authorities to release you early. But the prisoner is telling, they are going on strike and they say, Hamari mange puri karo. We want to become comfortable here in this material world. No matter how much you try, that is not the place for you. Same way people in this world, they want to become happy. They want to become comfortable in this material world. No, sir, that's not possible. One after another, there is other misery. Another example of hospital I gave. In the hospital, the patient go for treatment and the doctor tells the patient, you follow all the treatment carefully, you follow all the precautions carefully, then you will be cured quickly and then you can go out from this hospital. But if the patient, he does not follow the treatment properly, he doesn't take his medications or other therapy properly, and on top he is not following the precautions also, he is doing nonsense things which can further increase his problem, his health condition. So he has to continue in the hospital, suffer in the hospital for longer. And that is what with us in this material world. We are doing more nonsense things in this material world and entangling ourselves further and further in this material world. So Krishna is saying, this material world is a place of misery. Better you come out of this, and Krishna is waiting for us to go back to him. But for that we have to qualify ourselves. And what is that qualification? We have to dovetail our consciousness with Krishna. We have to remember Krishna at the time of death. And if we remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna is keeping his doors open to welcome us. So we work for our bosses in the company. Your boss is going to pay you if you are performing well. Yeah, and the boss, after retirement, boss is not going to say, oh, you can come and live with me. And the boss, I don't know what kind of nonsense activity he himself may be doing. Here, if we surrender to this supreme boss Krishna, who is willing to pay us, he is paying to others also who are not even believing in him. Right? He is taking care of everybody who are not even believing in them. And then After death, Krishna says, you come back to me, I am ready to bring you back to my home. You can come and live with me in my home. So Krishna is waiting for us. And Krishna is describing this material world as a place of misery. Janam mrityu jara vyadhi dukh dosh anudarshina. That one should remember the misery associated with 4 activities: birth, death, old age, disease. Okay, all these 4 things involve misery. At the time of birth, somebody may be thinking, oh, it's a happy moment. But actually, for the mother who is going through all that process, is such a misery. For the child in the womb of the mother is such a misery. And of course, we know disease condition is miserable. Okay, so Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Vyadhi means disease. Jara means old age. Old age is such a miserable situation. People cannot walk properly, cannot sit properly without pain. And then death is of course a miserable situation. So everybody in this world has to go through misery. Sometimes people say, okay, why to worry about that? That's a part of life. Let it continue like that. But even if somebody is trying to enjoy in this world, for all that enjoyment, how much price they have to pay? For little bit enjoyment, such a big price have to pay. For little enjoyment, it is associated with such a big misery. So Krishna is himself telling this is place of misery. But what are we trying to tell Krishna? No, Krishna, I will prove you wrong. I will tell you this is not Dukkhalaya, this is Sukhalaya. This place can be a happy place. I will show you, I will prove it to you. And we are struggling hard in this material world to become comfortable, to become happy. And the happiness in this material world is just like in the olden time, how will they punish the criminals? They will take them in the middle of the river in a boat and then put their head down in the water. Okay, force their head down in the water, and that person is struggling for breathing. And then after that, for 10 seconds, they will take him out. And as they take him out of the water, now he is able to breathe. That breathing is such a happy moment for that person. Again, after 10 seconds, they will push him down in the water. Again, miserable. And then they will take him out for 10 seconds. Again, he breathes and he feels comfortable. So happiness in this world is like that breathing for 10 seconds. Again, misery. And people, everybody here in this material world, they are going through search for that sort of happiness and suffering all the way out. So Krishna says this whole material world is designed like that. It is place of misery. And if somebody says, okay, maybe this earth is place of misery, what about higher planets? I can go to Swarga. I can go to Janalok, Maharlok, Taplok, Brahmalok. There will be such happiness. Swarga is said to be a place of happiness. There is more facilities there. Isn't it? In Swarga, one can enjoy better. So I will shoot for Swarga. Why only Goloka? Can't I go to Swarga and become happy? Krishna says in the next verse, no. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetyate konteya punarjanmana vidyate. Even the lowest place to the highest place in this material world, from the lowest planet to the highest planet, all are the places of misery. From every place there is repeated birth and death. But if somebody come to me, come back to Goloka Dham, the spiritual world, then they do not take birth again in this material world. So even if somebody go to Swarga, or even the higher planets up to Brahmalok, which is still part of this material world, yes, there may be better facility for enjoyment. Ultimately, one has to come down to this earthly planet. So based on their punya, somebody can go to Swarga, to the higher planets within this material world. But once their punya exhausts, they will be thrown back to this earthly planet or even the lower planets, where again they have to suffer, again they build their karma, again they go up, come down, go up, come down. So this repeated birth and death is going on. punaravartino Arjuna. But then if somebody comes back to me, punarjanmana vidyate, then they do not take birth again in this material world. Okay, so here now Krishna is saying that life exists everywhere on all planets. Yes, there are different situations of life on the various planets. There are 8.4 million species of life, and those all species of life not really meant only for Earth. These 8.4 million species of life are throughout this 14 planetary system. And sometimes we say one particular species has become extinguished from here. One particular species has become extinct. But that particular species may still be present there in some other material world, in some other planetary system. So life exists everywhere. Person can go up and down into different planetary system, but again ultimately they have to come down. And everybody thinks after death they will go to Swarga. There are obituary ads in the newspaper. People write some advertisement कि हमारे पिताजी स्वर्ग सिधार गए, हमारी दादाजी स्वर्ग सिधार गए. Everybody thinks they have gone to Swarga. How many times do we really see somebody putting obituary ad saying हमारे पिताजी वैकुंठवासी हो गए, गोलोकवासी हो गए? Rarely somebody have, because people have no idea what is the spiritual world, and there is a difference between spiritual world and Swarga. They think going to Swarga or going to Golokadham is one and same thing. No. Going to Swarga is not like going to Goloka. Swarga is within this material world. Yes, there is better facility there temporarily for some time, longer duration of life than earth, but ultimately, yes, there is also death, there is also misery. Indra, who is the king of Swarga, he also become miserable so many times. Right? So many pastimes we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam that the demons, the asuras, the attack on Swarga, and Indra is thrown out of his throne. He is thrown out of his kingdom. Then he is taking shelter of the Lord. Please help me, please protect me. So Indra also has misery. Indra also has his life duration. Even Brahma has his life duration. The life duration of Brahma is described here. Now Lord tells the life duration of Brahma. Sahasra yuga parayanta maharyad brahmano vidhu ratrim yuga sahasranantam teho ratravidho jana. So as per the human calculation, as per the earthly calculation, when 1000 cycle of 4 yuga passes, that is equal to 1 day of Brahma. And same is the duration of Brahma's night also. So 1000 cycle of 4 yuga is Brahma's 12 hours. So imagine Brahma's life duration. Yes, Brahma has a huge life duration. If we do the whole calculation of the time, कि Brahma's 1 day, 12 hours are equal to 4,300,000,000 years. Okay, 1 day, 12 hours of Brahma. And Brahma's lifespan of 100 years equals to 311,040,000,000,000 years. Okay, as per the human calculation. And we say, wow, such a huge life duration of Brahma. But with respect to Krishna, that is also like Brahma's 100 years or Brahma's 12 hours are like one breath of Mahavishnu. In Mahavishnu's one breath, all these universes come out. Brahma takes birth in the universe and whole these things happen. And then at the end of Brahma's day, everything goes back into the belly of Lord Vishnu. So with the exhale of Vishnu, all these universes come out. With the inhale of Mahavishnu, all these universes again go within him. So this Brahma's whole duration of life of 300 trillion, 311 trillion, 40 billion years are Mahavishnu's one breath. Just imagine. So in the spiritual world, there is no old age, there is no death. Time is still there. So that's why Krishna is ever youthful. So here Brahma's duration of life is mentioned, which is such a huge, but still Brahma also have to die. And all the places in this material world are the places of misery. And we have discussed going to Swarga is like if somebody goes to a tourist place, book a nice hotel there. You can only stay there as long as you are able to pay. And once you have exhausted all your bank balance, they will throw you out. Same way in Swarga. After attaining so many of punya, somebody can go to Swarga, but in Swarga, they are paying the price in the form of their punya. And as the punya are getting exhausted, they will be thrown back again. So here Krishna says, at the beginning of Brahma's day, all the living entity become manifest from the unmanifest state. And as the night of Brahma falls, they again merge back into the unmanifest state. So in Brahma's beginning of the day, everything come out of Mahavishnu's body. At the end of Brahma's day, again everything goes back. Again that cycle continues in the next day. So again and again, as Brahma's day arrive, all these living entity come into being, and as arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Okay? And in this material world, we said it is a place of misery. Why? Because there is so much hatred, there is so much of violence, there is so much of envy. Even if we think, I will try to be good, I will not do anything wrong, I will not do anything bad, still the circumstances are such that the one is forced to engage in certain nonsense activities. So in this material world, why all these things go on, the hatred, violence, envy and all that, that's all in the name of power, in the name of politics. Okay, the kings are fighting to increase their jurisdiction, they want to increase their territories. Then sometimes there are Sampradayic violence between Hindu, Muslim. Now so much of things are going in Bangladesh. What is happening these days? Okay, so many attacks are happening on the Hindus there. So there are violence between different Sampradayic violence, some different communities here. Then there is land grabbing, then forcing one's belief on others. If you accept my belief, then you can live peacefully. Otherwise, I will kill you. So many things go on. And actually, if we really see, right now we are able to practice our Sanatana Dharma. We are able to chant, we are able to go to temple and all that. In some part of the world, just like in Bangladesh, what is happening? People are not able to go to temple. Temples are being broken, being burnt. The deities are being broken and burnt. So just imagine what further is going to happen as the Kali Yuga progresses. 25, 30, 50 years down the line, what will happen? What may happen? What can happen? The people who are in majority, the Sanatana Dharma, Hindus in Bharat, they may become minorities. We may not even have the freedom to go to our Tirth places, our holy places like Vrindavan, Mathura, Ayodhya. So what will be the situation? Right now still we are able to practice. And what is the root cause of all these problems? Because there is no unity. Like the 5 fingers, if they are united, then the hand is strong. Then they are strong. But if the 5 fingers are separated, then there is no strength. And that is the root cause of the problem, when people are not united together. And the another root cause of the problem is the degradation of woman, the degradation of in chastity. Yeah, in first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had brought about that concern, that if the woman become corrupt, it will lead to unwanted progeny and it will destroy the whole culture, the whole society. So the degradation of woman, the corruption of woman also lead to all these problems. So that's why this education is very important. People are behaving at the level of animal, actually worse than animal. The animals still act based on their instinct. Lion will eat grass, eat flesh only. Cow will eat grass only. They will not cross their natural tendencies. But the human being, is acting lower than animal. So all these problems are there in this material world. That is why this place is defined as Dukkhalaya. Even if there is little happiness, that is temporary, ashashvatam. So Krishna says, beyond this material world, there is another creation, there is another nature. That is my spiritual nature, that is my spiritual world, which does not destroy at any point of time. This material world, Krishna says, come into being with the day of Brahma and highlights at the end of the day of Brahma. But the spiritual world is permanent. There is no destruction of the spiritual world. Nashyastu na vinashyati. The spiritual world, that nature does not annihilate. So we say this material world as Kuntha Jagat. And the spiritual world is called Vaikuntha Jagat. Vaikuntha means where there is no Kuntha, there is no anxiety, there is no misery. This material world is called Kuntha Jagat, where there is misery, there is anxiety. So Krishna says there is another creation. This material world is actually only 1/4 of the total creation, and 3/4 of the creation is spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, there are so many different other planetary systems. There are so many different planets within the spiritual world also. There is Ayodhya Dham, there is Mathura Dham, there is Dwarika Dham, there is Goloka Dham. So all these different planets are also there within spiritual world, where the Lord is present in his different forms. And the devotee can go to any particular form within the spiritual world based on their inclination to particular form of the Lord. If somebody is more attracted to Lord Ramachandra, they may go live with Lord Ramachandra in that particular planet in the spiritual world, Ayodhya Dham. If somebody is inclined towards Lord Nrsimhadev, they can go on the planet where Lord Nrsimhadev resides. And devotee of Lord Krishna in the form of his beautiful Shama Sundar form, they can go live with Lord in Goloka Dham. So all this spiritual creation is 3/4 of the total creation. This material world is only 1/4. And once one devotee, one person, Kanishta Bhakta, he asked this question, oh, if everybody will go to the spiritual world, then what will happen to this material world? And the devotee told him, hey, don't worry about that. What will happen to this material world? Because there will be some fools like you who will always there, who will always like to live here. And somebody asked, if people are going back to Goloka, then why there is population increasing here? Why there is so much population increasing in this material world? First of all, we have to understand, when we say population, it's not about just the human forms. All the other life forms, they are also living entity, the spirit soul. We are counting only human being as population, as our Janganana. So if human beings are going up to Goloka Dham, there are another species of life, like even the grass, the dog, the cat, the donkey and all, they may be transmigrating and becoming into human beings. So why population is increasing? Nobody is going up, but the other lower species are coming into the human form. So that's why population is increasing as a human population. The lower life forms, the lower species of life are coming into the human form, but the humans are not progressing further to go back to spiritual world. Why? Because we are not preparing ourselves for that. So now Krishna says there are different people who try to remember Krishna in different way at the time of death. Okay, and Krishna describes two different methods how people can, what will be the destination as a Ashtanga yogi if they follow that particular practice. So Krishna talk about at different times at which when somebody dies, what will be their destination. So once I mentioned the auspicious time of death. Okay, when somebody takes birth, then we make their Janampatri and all. पंचांग देख के सब लोग जन्म पत्री बनाते हैं. They want to do the forecast of their life. Okay, what will be this person's future? So same way, we need to worry about the auspicious time of death. Based on that, one should make a forecast of the next life. What will be his next life based on the time of death? So now Krishna is going to describe the time of death. Based on that, their destination also can be determined. So if somebody dies in these particular situations, which Krishna says, if somebody passes away from this world during the influence of daylight, okay, or during the influence of fire god, Agnir. So during the influence of fiery god, during the daytime, in the auspicious time of Shukla Paksha, or in the Uttarayana, when the sun travels from south to north, the 6th month of Uttarayana, which start from kind of mid-January, when we have what is that particular? Okay, I'm not remembering that. So
Equinox?
no. The Hindi word we say. Anybody remember that?
Makar Sankranti.
Sakranti, yes, Makar Sakranti. Okay, so at the time of Makar Sakranti, this Uttarayana starts, when the sun starts to travel towards the northern side. So Krishna says, if somebody is dying in this particular times, during this Uttarayana, in that during Shukla Paksha, when the moon is going from 0 to full moon, and then during the influence of daytime, during the influence of fire. So at that time, if somebody gives up their body as Ashtanga Yogi while remembering Krishna, so that Krishna is now talking about the destination of Ashtanga Yogi. If somebody is practicing this process of Ashtanga Yoga, they have to give up their life in these auspicious time while remembering the Lord. Then they can also attain to the spiritual world. Spiritual world in the sense they can attain. If they remember the form of Krishna, they can go back to spiritual world. Otherwise, they will attain to the Brahma Jyoti. So that is the destination they can attain. So the influence of time at the time of death. And again, Krishna says, if some mystic yogi, if they pass away during the smoke, okay, during the day of, during the night time, during Krishna Paksha, when the moon is going from full moon to 0 moon, or the 6th month of Dakshinayana, when the sun travels from north to south, then they can attain to moon. They can go up to moon planet. They can attain moon, enjoy life duration at moon, and then they will come back in this material world on the lower planets. So from the moon planet, they will come back. See here in scripture, it is defined. Yes, somebody can go to moon. It is possible. There is life on moon, but not by artificial methods of making a spacecraft and try to go to moon. So Prabhupada used to say this whole moon landing is like a hoax. They cannot go to moon by these artificial means. So there is a method how somebody can attain to that moon also. If a yogi remembering Krishna gives up their life in these particular time frames, they can attain to moon. So as per the Vedic opinion, there are these two methods of giving up the body. Okay, these are considered as the different time, calculating the time of one's death. So these yogis, they have control on they can control their time of death, that I want to give up my life at this particular time. And there have been so many of such mystic yogi in the history. And we know Bhishma Pitama also had the boon of choosing the time of his death. Ichha Mrityu Vardhan. He could choose when he want to die. And Bhishma Pitama, even though he did not need to, he was a devotee of the Lord, he was seeing Krishna face to face in front of him when he was giving up his life, but he still waited for the time of Uttarayana, as just following this Vedic method of giving up the life at the time of Uttarayana while remembering Krishna. But now Krishna further says, yes, these are the two methods as described as per the Vedic methods. Although a devotee of the Lord also knows these two methods, but the devotee is not bewildered. He does not have to worry about any of such consideration. He is always fixed in devotion. So if as a devotee, we don't have to worry, oh, am I going to die at the night time or at the daytime? In Uttarayana time or Dakshinayana time? In Shukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha? A devotee does not have to worry about that. All our consideration should be, am I able to remember Krishna or not? I want to be surrounded by the devotees of the Lord. At least have the remembrance of the Lord at that time. So if somebody can remember Krishna at the time of death, all other things does not matter. Then everything becomes auspicious. So sometimes some people are very fanatic, right? They become too much into these consideration, auspicious time, inauspicious time, stepping out of the house, they want to look at the time, oh, is this time good for me to step out or not, to start a particular activity, is this good time or not? But for a Krishna conscious person, for a devotee, one does not have to worry about any such consideration. All the time become auspicious when we are remembering Krishna. If we are chanting the name of Krishna, then everything becomes auspicious. As a conclusion, Lord Krishna tells, Vedeshu yagyeshu tapascheva daneshu yatya punya phalam pradishtham atyeti tatsarvam idam viditva yogi paramam sthanam upeti chadhyam. So a person who accepts the path of devotional service, he is not bereft of results derived from studying the Vedas. Vedeshu, yagyeshu, performing the yagyas, tapaha, performing the austerities, daneshu, doing the charity, punyaphala, performing any other pious activities, philanthropic activities. Okay, so all these different results what somebody can get by performing these various activity, a devotee of the Lord, he attains all this without any effort, extra effort, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode of the Lord. Okay, so we don't have to think too much about this auspicious, inauspicious. All we have to do is we have to consider remembering Krishna. The problem with people is we pay attention to so many other things, but we do not engage our consciousness in remembering Krishna. Sometimes if the child becomes little inclined towards spiritual life, people become scared. Family members, the parents become scared. Arey, this child is going too much into this. He will give up his other material life and material responsibilities. And if somebody tells their parent, oh, your son is so inclined to this, inclined in the spiritual activities, in the spiritual life, will you prefer your son to become a sadhu? And the parents will say, Arey, shub bolo. Why you are saying like this? I want to make my child into a big officer and all that. So we want to make our children into big officers and settled in these positions and all. But if somebody want to take to spiritual life seriously, we become scared. We become afraid. Once one family was traveling in the train, and their child, he was very simple. He will eat only simple food like khichdi and all that. If the parents try to give him nice preparations, the child will not take. He only eat very simple things. And one sadhu was also traveling, and the sadhu was sitting across, and these people approached sadhu. Mahatma ji, please tell him, we giving him so many nice preparation and he is not eating. Please tell him something. And this sadhu said, if your child want to live as a very simple life, why you are forcing all these sophisticated things? Let him lead a very simple life, simple living and high thinking. See what the people mentality is, if somebody else's child become a sadhu, then they will say, oh, you are very fortunate, it's so good. If their own son want to become sadhu, then they become afraid. We want sadhu in the world, but let neighbor's son become a sadhu, not my son. That is the problem. And people are afraid of keeping Bhagavad Gita at home, keeping Mahabharata at home. They think, oh, why you are keeping Bhagavad Gita? Why are you keeping Mahabharata? There will be quarrels in your family. Better you give it to somebody else. Means somebody else can have quarrel, somebody else can have fight. Not your house should have quarrels. But in fact, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, keeping those does not bring quarrels in the family. They drive away the quarrels. Anyways, there are so many quarrels happening in the world. Keeping Bhagavad Gita will drive away those quarrels and misunderstandings. If somebody understands the message of Bhagavad Gita. So we need to develop our consciousness to engage in spiritual life, prepare throughout the life so that we can pass in the final exam. And what is the final question in the final exam? Okay, there is no secret. This question paper is leaked. The question which is going to be asked in the final exam is, are we able to remember Krishna at the time of death? And if we can remember Krishna, then we are eligible to go back to Krishna. So let's mold our lives in such a way that we can practice spiritual life on regular basis, on an everyday basis, not like once in a week, once in a month, once in a year, on some special occasions. Chant the holy name of the Lord. Hear Krishna Katha on regular basis. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So that is chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. Attaining the Supreme, Bhagavad Prapti. The law of last thought. Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Let's see if anybody has any question, any comment. So we are open for any questions.
Yeah, Vishal Prabhu, this is Srini.
Hare Krishna, Srini.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, you muted. You have a question? Srini Prabhu, you are muted. I think.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Very nice summary. Very good. I really liked. Specifically chapter 8.
Yeah, chapter 8 is my favorite chapter.
The art of dying. Just wondering, is this the right chapter to read or to have a feel of somebody who is on the verge of death to attain at least some level of moksha?
Yes, there are certain sections of Bhagavad Gita which are, means in general we can recite the whole Bhagavad Gita, but in general there are particular sections of Bhagavad Gita which are recommended to read during that particular time. One is chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, which is Atma Gyan, right? We are not the body, we are the spirit soul. Body dies, but the soul does not die. So those, especially those text 11 through 30, those 20 verses. So that is the important section. Chapter 8 is a good chapter. Chapter 12 is a good chapter for that particular time. And chapter 15 is also recommended. Purushottam Yoga. Okay, so the Yoga of the Supreme. In that chapter also, again, we will be touching on the same theme here, what we have discussed in chapter 8. So these are certain sections of Bhagavad Gita which are very good to recite when somebody is about to die or somebody has recently passed away, like the 13 days period which we observe after somebody's death in the family. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any question?
And I have one.
Hare Krishna.
Isn't it true that also Garud Puran is also read?
Yes.
When time is death?
Garud Puran is also read when there is death in the family. Now, the peculiar situation here is we read Garud Puran when somebody has died in the family. And actually, if somebody should read Garud Puran before death, because Garud Puran is talking about the journey of the soul. Okay, how the soul is now moving forward, moving to the next destination, and what are the different things the soul have to travel even before the soul reaches to Yamaraj. When the soul is being taken to Yamaraj, all the travel, all the journey is also described in that. Okay, so when we read Garuda Puran, when somebody has died in the family, it is not for the person who has died. Actually, it is for the people who are left behind. For us to understand that. So, yes,
Garuda always say, oh, not to read that book. It's not, I'm not sure why people run away from it. I did listen to it, and I thought it was really educational.
Yes. Yeah. So that's again normal response of people. Generally, people don't want to run away from Garuda Puran because people want to run away from death in general, right? As I said in the beginning of the class, people don't want to talk about death. People want to just escape. Just don't talk about, don't worry about this. When it will happen, it will happen. Why to talk now? Why to be pessimistic? But as a spiritualist person, we want to talk about the ultimate reality of life. We want to prepare ourselves for that. Right? So, Garuda Puran is a great literature which talk about the journey of the soul.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I really loved it. And I think I will listen to it again.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Hare Krishna. Bhageshwi Mataji, you have a question?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु.
हरे कृष्ण. मनोज प्रभु दंडवत प्रणाम.
प्रभु, आपने कहा कि ये दुखलय है, हम यहाँ सफर होने के लिए आते हैं, लेकिन एक ओर से ये भी बोला जाता है कि आपने कुछ अच्छे कर्म किए हैं इसलिए आपको मनुष्य जन्म मिला है. तो ये मुझे थोड़ा ये लगा, कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी लगा. तो आप इसके बारे में कुछ बता सकोगे?
Sure, bro. So, as I said, this material world is place of misery, but then again there is relativity. Okay, some people they suffer more, some people suffer less. Ultimately, this is a place of suffering. Yes, it is benediction to get a human form of life, to come to the level of human form of life. Why? Because human form of life awards opportunity for us to go out of this miserable place. So that's why human life is considered as a benediction, a fortune position. Durlabha manusha deha. So that's why I say human form of life is rare. It's very fortunate situation. Just like in a jail. In a jail, there are different grades of cells, right? There are different cells where the prisoners are kept. Somebody is kept in a A grade cell, somebody is in B grade, somebody is in C grade. So in some cell, there is no daylight also. They have to stay completely in dark and their hands and legs are chained completely. Then another cell, maybe there is a window, some daylight is coming and they can move around freely in that cell. In some other cell, maybe they are giving nice preparations to eat also, right? There are different criminals kept in different grades of cells there in the prison house. So same way, all are suffering only. Their suffering is relative. Somebody is suffering more, somebody is suffering less. Same way in this material world, different species of life, there is different grading of suffering. Within the human also, there is some people are suffering more based on their previous karma, some people suffer less. But ultimately, whatever we are trying to enjoy in this material world, during that enjoyment, there is more suffering, less enjoyment. Okay, so that is the point we have to remember.
Okay, धन्यवाद.
Hare Krishna. Bala Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, wonderful class, wonderful summary of the chapter. Thank you very much. My question is, we talked about our whole sampradaya almost as a preparation for death, right? To remember at the time of death.
Yes.
But are there, in Shastra, sometimes there's some shots, like Ajamela or somebody, they do say there are some miraculous things that happen to undeserved at the end. So would you like to say something about that, Prabhu?
Yes. So what happens is, even though you cited the example of Ajamila, so in Ajamila's case, he was a Brahman, right? He was born in a Brahman family. He was following some Vedic rituals. He was a Karamkandi Brahman. Now, he was helping his parents to perform all these different rituals and all, but he had no clear understanding about the soul, about the spiritual world. And one day, as he went into the forest to collect some flowers, he saw one off scene. He saw one Shudra Shudrani embracing and all that, and his whole consciousness became diverted. He started meditating on that scene. He started thinking of that, and he gave up his family, he gave up his wife and his parents and everybody, and started living with them. So his life, being earlier as a Vedic Brahmana, changed into a debauchee. He became as a sinful person, started living with a prostitute and gave birth to so many children. But because of some previous Sukriti, he named his youngest son as Narayana. So he is chanting the name of Narayana indirectly, even though he is addressing his son, but indirectly he is chanting the name of Narayana. And at the time of death, when the Yamadutas came to drag out his soul from the body, in that condition he chanted the name of his son. He called out to his son, Narayana, save me, Narayana, help me. Because he called out the name of Narayana, even though it was his son's name, but Vishnudutas came. And Vishnudutas protected him from Yamadutas. Okay, now why this happened? That is the power of the holy name. And why it happened with Ajamila? Because at least he had that previous Sukriti that he named his son as Narayana, and he got the benefit of chanting the name of Narayana, even though as Abhas Nam. Okay, not as a pure name, just as Abhas.
Yeah.
So he, after chanting that name of Narayana, it's not that he immediately went back to the spiritual world. Because he chanted Abhas Nam. He was given a second chance. Okay, rather than being...
Prabhu, you just simply Abhas. What is that, Prabhu? You said
Abhas means just a reflection of the pure name. Okay? He is not even chanting with pure consciousness. He is not consciously chanting the holy name, just as indirectly he chanted. That is called Abhas Nam. So now whatever holy name we are chanting, our section Mala, are we chanting Abhas Nam or Shuddha Nam? Right? Our name maybe there is Abhas Nam, there is Nama Aparad. Okay, even lower than that is Nama Aparad, then Abhas Nam, then Shuddha Nam. Most of the time we may be chanting Nama Aparad also actually. While chanting we are doing offenses also.
Right.
At least he was not doing offenses. Right? When he called out to Narayana, he chanted as Abhas Nam, which is free from any offenses at least. So that is the reason Vishnudutas came, they protected him, and he was given a second chance to correct himself. So now after that he gave up everything, he went to Haridwar, okay, and then he completely engaged in devotional service. For 10-11 years he performed devotional service, and then because he prepared now himself for the last minute, after that when he gave up his body, he went to the spiritual world.
Wonderful, wonderful. That is an excellent answer, Prabhu. I have two comments on that. That is, one is he paid his dues. He just got a second chance because of the Abhas Nam you mentioned.
Yes.
And as you were explaining the answer, it also occurred to me that this Ajamila story is also a expression of what we say, what Prabhupada always says, that the name and is non-different from Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So that is the mercy that he got.
Yes. So actually I heard one very beautiful pastime, I think Radha Govind Maharaj, he mentions once. So even if somebody is chanting the holy name and not with full attention, okay, they are chanting the holy name, their whole consciousness is not absorbed, still they will also get the benefit. Okay, just like you have a big building and you have appointed a security guard outside, and when the security guard is sitting there at the night to guard that, even though he sleeps at night, okay, he is still paid his salary. So, okay, you may not be paying attention, he may be sleeping also in between, but he is paid his salary. And people at least see that, oh, security guard is sitting there, they may not come to steal, right? The thief may be staying away, even though the security guard may be sleeping there. So same way, even though we are chanting the holy name, which is not the pure holy name, still one person gets the benefit. And Krishna says, on this path there is no loss. Neha bhikrama nasho asti pratyuvayo na vidyate. So on this path there is no loss. Even if somebody is not chanting the pure name, they will be still making progress further. Okay, just like in the case of Ajamila, he was given the second chance. The story I told in the beginning, right? One real story, one devotee in coma, he saw the Yamadutas. That is also a story of second chance.
Yes.
Okay? Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much.
Anybody
Hare
else's question? Sumit Prabhu, I saw your...
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, good evening.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
So I just had one comment. I'm a bit nervous about this law of last thought. I mean,
Okay.
if someone has remembered and chanted Krishna Lord for 10 years and he forgets the last second, and what happened to Bharat Maharaj?
Okay, we don't have to worry about that actually. So yes, in case of Bharat Maharaj, he had to come back 2 more lifetimes, but that is also Lord's mercy. And these stories are there, these particular pastimes are there in Bhagavatam to guide us, to kind of give an example for us so we can be careful. We don't have to worry about that, oh, what will happen with me. We have to just depend on Krishna. And in Garud Puran, there is another verse where Lord says that even if my devotee forgets me, I make sure that I will remember him and I will bring him back to me. Okay, so the Lord gives that assurance also. So there is a beautiful verse. Even though we may forget the Lord, if we have practiced chanting the name, we have practiced remembering Krishna, at that particular time, let's say somebody is in coma, right? They are completely in an unconscious state. And during coma, if somebody just dies in the state of coma, then what will happen to him? Krishna says, I make sure I bring him back. He will make arrangement for somebody to somehow remind him of Krishna.
Okay.
And Krishna himself remembers such devotee. Okay.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Bhageshwi Mataji, Manoj Prabhu, you have another question?
हाँ प्रभु, one small question.
Question per family. Joking.
So Prabhu, like I've seen people who chant for Vitthal, who chant for
Balaji.
other forms of Krishna, other forms of Vishnu.
Yeah.
So is it like same effective?
Yes. Yeah, that is fine. If somebody is chanting the name of Vitthal, somebody is chanting another name of Krishna, Mukunda, Ram, there's no problem. It's all same. So one can remember Krishna in any form. But here, the point is, in Kali Yuga, what is the easiest process mentioned or the best names of the holy name prescribed here is the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And it is not somebody's concoction that just now, recently, 50 years back, somebody made up this mantra. 500 years back, somebody made up this mantra. This mantra is mentioned in the scripture. Kali Santarana Upanishad, this is mentioned. This whole Mahamantra is written. And it says, Iti Shodishkamanavanam Kali Kalmashah Nashanam. This mantra made of 16 syllable can destroy the ill influences of Kali Yuga. So this is a recommended Mahamantra for this Yuga, for this age. And the reason is because in chanting this mantra, there are no hard and fast rules and regulation. One can chant at any time. One does not have to have a proper pronunciation, Shuddhucharan. Other names of the Lord, some other mantra, they require very pure pronunciation. Okay, Shuddhucharan, like chanting Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It requires a perfect pronunciation in a perfect meter. And people in this age are not eligible to chant these mantras to get their full benefit. And for chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, no rules and regulation. Nama Namakari Bahuda Nij Sarva Shaktis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Lord has invested all his energy, all his powers in these holy names. There is no hard and fast rules and regulation in chanting this mantra. Okay, somebody can chant by taking shower, without taking shower, while sitting, while walking. It will give benefit. Yes, there is a recommended method that one should take bath in the morning, sit down and chant in that way. But there are no hard and fast rules.
Okay, bro. But like in society, like if you say I'm chanting this holy name like this way, they will they will connect you with ISKCON for sure. Why this mantra is not popular in other other peoples, like who are not following ISKCON? Why they are unknown of this?
So it's not about ISKCON. Okay, ISKCON is one organization among the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So this mantra is famous throughout in overall Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. ISKCON is one part of that Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, so different Sampradaya, they take their teaching differently. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came and he started this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is coming from Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu popularized this mantra based on the scriptures. That in this Yuga, this is the Yuga Dharma. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to spread the Yuga Dharma. So different Sampradaya, they follow their different teachings and everybody want to maintain their identity, right? There is a sometimes identity crisis. Everybody want to maintain their identity, or we belong to this or we belong to that, and people don't want to accept somebody else's opinion kind of thing, even though if it is better, if it is superior. But this mantra is for everybody. Anybody can chant. Nobody will say, oh, this mantra, even for other Sampradaya, they may preferably chant as a first preference their mantra, but they will not say that, oh, this mantra is useless or something. So this mantra is good for anybody and everybody. Okay, not just ISKCON. ISKCON is one organization. It is just like one institute, which is giving the education, which is giving the teaching of Shastra in a most easy and systematic way, helping us to go back to Godhead, to fulfill the final exam.
Okay. So there are other sampradayas also who are chanting the same mantra, but just like we are not aware of, a person like me is not aware of it.
Right. So the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, even not just ISKCON, there are so many other branches within Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya who also use this mantra, who also chant this mantra.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Vishal Prabhu, just one more. Yeah.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, Srini Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, death is like attaining the freedom from this dukkha. Am I correct?
Death is basically
like attaining freedom from this dukkha.
Yes.
Right? That means we are going into a better state of, the soul gets into a better state of living.
Right.
Or better state of existence.
Yes. So basically what Bhagavad Gita teaches us throughout from second chapter onwards, that one should not consider death as something as miserable situation. One should consider death as that, okay, the soul which was in this body now, maybe it was suffering in this body, now it is being released from this and maybe going to a better destination. Okay, for example, if a child is in a very diseased condition, and if the child at a young age dies because of that disease, now was that death misery or it's a better option? Okay, for the parents, yes, it's misery. Right? Somebody's child dying, it's definitely a miserable situation. But for the child who died, maybe he now went back to a better position, in a better life situation.
Right. Correct.
And ultimately, death is a opportunity for a devotee to go back to Krishna if we can remember Krishna at the time of death, if we can prepare ourselves for that glorious moment to remember Krishna. Like Bhishma Pitama. Bhishma Pitama gave up his life while seeing Krishna face to face. Right? Haridas Thakur gave up his life in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, okay, in his hands. So that is a glorious death.
Okay, Prabhu, I got it. My question is, according to Gita, then, is sympathizing with somebody who is sympathizing with the family, or sympathizing with somebody who's on bed, right? Who is about to die, is not good, or is good?
No, that is okay. We can sympathize with that family, right? With that person who is on the deathbed, because losing the near and dear ones, losing our friend and family, yes, it's painful, right? Because we have developed so much of connection with that person, so there is an emotional attachment there. So it's okay to show that kind of as an attachment or that moment as a sympathy. But in our mind, we should always remember that this is not the end of everything. Okay? And we can pray to the Lord in that position, that we pray for his best destination possible, for him to get a better position so he can continue his journey towards Krishna. Okay, so sympathizing with somebody or being emotionally affected is not a wrong thing. Even Lord Krishna, even though he spoke the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, when Abhimanyu died, Krishna sympathized with Arjuna, right? Krishna was not being, okay, hey, what is all this? I just spoke about this whole Atma and everything and you are crying. Krishna was also crying. When Satyabhama came to Krishna telling, oh, my father is killed, Krishna started crying. Oh, father-in-law, you have gone now, how will we be living our lives? So at that time, to sympathize with somebody, to have emotional connection is not the wrong thing.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, I think today was a good session at the end in terms of question and answer. So it's good to have question answer session. So thank you everyone for your participation. I think we'll end it here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.